Right, a masterclass in acting now on BBC 4 and a serious addition to the science fiction Britannia season. Distinguished thespian Nicholas Craig teaches you how to be sci-fi.
We'll show him whether this is a time machine or not.
What have you done?
You can't get away! You hear me?
We're on Venus now. Nothing but mist and rain and grey grass and grey trees.
Greetings from the fifth dimension. I come in peace, yes, but also in the interest of maintaining the very highest standards of performance. This masterclass is about the art, possibly the science, of sci-fi and outer space acting. Now, I think it's generally accepted that acting is the hardest job in the world, but it's also the hardest job in a great many other worlds besides, and indeed whole galaxies not yet discovered. The sci-fi repertoire is simply vast, and it requires the performer to tackle anything from a Time Lord to a humorous robot to a blob of alien jelly. All the more important, then, that you mine every line of text for the truth and really get under a character's skin. If you're lucky enough to have one, of course. When I played Gonarth in Riddle of the Thargans, of course, I didn't. I had a sort of scaly carapace with a striped fur head and two tentacles here, actually, which made every meal break a potential cosmic catastrophe. But I never let go of the essential truth of Gonarth, that he was an emissary from Thargon 50 who badly needed some radionic pods to survive. Now, you don't have to be a scientist to play sci-fi, but whatever galaxy or continuum you're performing in, whether you're an alien, a talking computer, or just a space pilot with a pointy badge, you have to look like you know what you're talking about.
Grid reference 1073 Delta in 2 minutes, 23 seconds. Mark. Attack in sections. Alpha section leads. 13 seconds between waves. Speed? Time distort 10.
That could be the relative drift, commentator.
No, some sort of turbulence.
Feedback from the zonal comparator. No.
Another ship.
Another ship? What do you mean, another ship?
If it builds up at this frequency, it could draw us into spatial convergence. We must materialize immediately.
I'm reversing the polarity of my ultrasonic screwdriver's power source, thereby converting it into an extremely powerful electromagnet.
Oh.
Beryllium serves to derange a number of enzyme-catalyzed reactions. Since the lungs have no way of excreting beryllium, diverse metabolic derangements causing serious illness and death can result from inhaling beryllium dust.
You wouldn't have a grenade with a percussion detonator, would you?
One that's immune to circuit influence.
Exactly.
It's a well-established psychological fact that the colors, red and green, have a deleterious effect on mental stability. Now, here on TOAS, we have a situation where the chromopsychic picture, and it's purely to use the technical term, is inescapable. And it is possible that chromopsychosis could reach a fatal level by inducing hypertrophy of the trinitarian follicles and consequent cerebric catatonia.
Yes, if you've got a really complicated bit of space jargon, it's never a bad idea to take a pause halfway through and gather your strength for that final push to the end of the line.
And it's purely to use the technical term, is inescapable. And it is possible that chromopsychosis could reach a fatal level by inducing hypertrophy of the trinitarian follicles and consequent cerebric catatonia.
I've never heard of that.
Timeless techniques, tried and tested by generations of actors. Effective, even if the script doesn't always stand up to the most rigorous scientific analysis.
You see, before you reactivated it, I reversed the polarity of the neutron flow.
You did what?
And there'll always be nitpickers. I mean, I've had a young researcher helping me with this, who pointed out, bless her, that a neutron has no polarity and as such therefore cannot be reversed. Now, she's a dear girl who will no doubt rise very rapidly up the sisterly hierarchy of the BBC, but she's rather missed the obvious point, as people with smart degrees so often do, that if the actor believes in what he's saying, then so will the audience. The same applies to mastering the hardware. It's all about conviction.
Is that a nuclear meter you're working with?
That's right. Has a force field generator at the top so it can penetrate any rock. Here. You see?
Right. Bring it directly over the skull. No, that won't do. You'll have to use the radio sensor.
Gareth here, using a humble thermos to take us to the 34th century.
That's much better.
Wait 5 seconds for reduction to normal, then close and activate. That's it. It's in position now.
Activate.
Ready to alert control.
Ready to alert control. Now press together. Yes. Those are the buttons that send off the rockets. And that light tells you that control has been alerted.
The megawattage is still rising.
I'll try fusing the control of the neutron flow. Now stand well back and cover your eyes.
490,
Gonna fall short. Can't reach the
460.
station from here.
2 seconds, 2 seconds. Speed, 230, 210.
We'll never hold her, Blake.
These two levers together. I can't ship this one. What? You've got to trip that first.
I mean, one is an actor, for goodness sake, not Buzz Armstrong. If I'd wanted to be an astronaut, I'd have gone to space school instead of RADA. And actually, I find one learns all one needs to know about science from one's godchildren, so there's really no need to get into a lather over polarity and relative drift commutators, whatever they might be. From a performance perspective, you have to construct your sci-fi character as you would any other, starting from the basic principles laid down by Stanislavski. Where have I come from? What do I want?
Where do you come from?
What do you want?
My God! Why?
What are they?
They are the ones who sent it. The ones I am supposed to be like.
You can't move.
No, really big brains cannot move. And they have no eyes.
What are you? Well, if that's your only way of communicating, I can't see us having much of a conversation.
Now, nothing happens in sci-fi unless somebody wants something. It might be anything from the mastery of an entire solar system right down to whatever it is that the scientist holds up with his tweezers in the first scene. It's sometimes an obscure mixture of both, and consequently a bit hard to follow, so it needs to be spelt out. You have to explain your ambition very loudly and very clearly. Brian Blessed.
What do you want? Power! That you already have. Yes! But to take the word beyond, to gather followers in new worlds, new disciples bound together and obeying the one true God.
That is what I want. That is what you will give me.
Brian's really at the top of his game here, because he's gone up an octave into an otherworldly voice to indicate he's barking mad and trying to take over the universe.
That is what I want. That is what you will give me.
I used it, of course, as Gonarth in Riddle of the Thargons, in the scene when I had to push the American boy up against the radionic comparator. Resistance is futile, Lieutenant Starflash. Your planet will be destroyed. And so on and so on. The high-pitched, otherworldly voice used by Brian and myself, and countless other cosmic maniacs, is not to be confused, of course, with the otherworldly voice you have to use when you've come over funny and been possessed by something sinister.
Asmael is now my slave.
It speaks to me.
I want to help. I do.
Green. Green.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of me.
Hold on to me! Hold on!
can't see green. But there isn't any green anymore.
We shall absorb the humans. The Earth shall be ours.
All very ominous indeed, and some lovely glazed eye work there. But let's just see now how Brian Blessed winds up his bid for cosmic power.
You will contact your ship and order it to land.
I can't do that.
You are mistaken. He has defied the word. Teach him what happens to unbelievers.
Yes, an evil grin sets up a liquidation nicely. I know I go on about this, but it all does come down to teamwork. If you're going to be exterminated effectively, or zapped, or eliminated, or turned into a stir-fry, or whatever process has been ordained by the writer, you are very dependent on your tormentor to set up the moment for you. Let's look at some liquidations and see how the best performers always work in pairs.
Plastic should be warm and dried.
Sit down.
No, I will not tolerate his insults.
Sylvia, will you check Mr. McDermott's entitlement on termination of employment, please?
You lied to me.
Oh! I have killed the one who created me!
Actually, I'm a bit of a traditionalist when it comes to liquidations, and I take it as a bit of a personal affront if the editor decides to turn me negative when I'm zapped. A good actor ought to be able to make a death horrifying enough without recourse to special effects. No need for tricksy editing there, my dear. I think some of the images of evil we've just seen show that just as the devil has the best tunes, he also tends to get the best costumes, as I've often discovered to my immense advantage. I mean, I've had some wonderful fabrics to wear over the years. There were the leathers I had in Delta Base Omega, and of course the caftan I wore in Quatermass and the Kinky Boots. And actually, I've had Gonarth's cloak turned into a duvet cover, which is rather lovely. Heroic costumes, of course, are another matter entirely, and I suppose the first thing that pops into one's mind, if you're booked to play a goodie, is, please God, let it not be a pastel-coloured roll neck. And if you've worn as many as I have over the years, believe me, you learn to put your foot down very firmly indeed at the first wardrobe fitting. Should have seen what the designer wanted me to wear for this. Spock ears, if you please. Anyway, he's been well and truly eliminated, I'm pleased to say. So, designer costumiers have, as I say, produced some exquisite space fashions over the years, with classical lines that never go out of date.
What do you think?
looks like the frock Nazis aren't ready to renounce the roll neck and catsuit in the foreseeable future, so I suppose we're stuck with them. But the fabric of a sci-fi cosy has to be light and hard-wearing to see the performer through, not just the action sequences, but a very great deal indeed of chasing up and down spaceship corridors. Now, it's been estimated by someone, a Doctor Who anorak probably, but it's been estimated that in the rehearsal and recording of a sci-fi show, the actor clocks up an average of 3 miles an episode just from running up and down corridors. And that's one of the reasons why I've always said no when it comes to recasting the Doctor. The corridor is an established feature of life in outer space, and one that early astronomers wouldn't have dared to predict. I don't suppose Copernicus would have been taken very seriously if he'd announced to the world that the Earth goes round the sun, oh, and by the way, it's mainly corridors up there.
I'm sorry, Alex, you of all people must realize I simply do not have the authority to get rid of this Larwood character.
Why is he here?
Yes, why is he here?
We don't want reporters nosing around.
Yes, I know. And how come we weren't informed of that?
Automatic shutdown has been implemented.
You see, I think the space corridor is a stage upon which some of the most epic struggles between good and evil in TV history have been played out. I mean, you need to be seriously fit for that kind of mileage, as you do for scenes set on the bridge of the spaceship. This is an old friend. It's here in the heat of space battle where the good guys really earn their corn, or joggle money, as my agent Miriam calls it. In the absence of an American-sized special effects budget, it's down to the actor and his body to create the white-knuckle excitement of an alien attack or a negative force field malfunction, or when something awful goes wrong with the engine rockets. Now, the camera can help you here to a point, as I'll show you. Marie-Cécile, if you could be so kind. And... thank you. Now, I've no doubt that Marie-Cécile did a stupendously good camera jolt there, but as you can see, it's the performer's joggle that carries the hopes and fears of the production. And I make damn sure Miriam tells them that when she's doing the deal.
I know the very place.
Doctor, what's happening? Just hold on. I think crash. It's the G-force.
The quality of an actor's joggle can make or break a show, so there's no way I'll even think of pulling on the roll neck unless there's a message on my machine from Miriam saying she's got me wobble-wonger up by at least 150 quid. OK, let's try some anti-gravity work. The weightless walk or run provides a stern examination of an actor's mime skills. Expressing emotion from inside a spacesuit isn't easy. Bit of help from Dr. Slow-Mo here. But perhaps the stiffest physical challenge for any space performer is weightlessness inside the ship. It really is the sci-fi Everest. Here we see lovely David Calder tackling zero gravity and light-hearted banter at the same time.
I'm not very hungry, actually, at the moment.
Falling's easier with something in your stomach.
A sword, preferably. Do you know, I feel worse now than when I first got here.
This could be your age.
Nausea is not a recognized symptom of midlife crisis. Other people's might make you sick, but not your own.
That's not what I meant.
I know, I'm late flowering for a spaceman. Do you know, I really have a natural aptitude for this, don't I?
Keep that up for 26 episodes, if you like, Cookie. Now, from what we've seen so far, the appeal of TV science fiction is not camp exactly, more cultish, I suppose, an acquired taste at any rate. But I really do want to stamp very hard indeed on the notion that sci-fi is only watched by badly dressed men with poor social skills who jiggle their legs under tables, as I discovered when I was invited to the last Far Gone Quest convention. There's a much broader audience for intelligent science fiction these days, although most of them do eat rather messily. But science is emphatically back in fashion, and it absolutely punches its weight with the arts. I'd go further and say that recent advances in stem cell research may in time come to be seen as more significant than the advent of theatre in the round. And of course, writers leap at the chance the genre offers to comment on contemporary issues and also to address serious philosophical questions. However, a good producer will know how to nip that kind of thing in the bud and spend the budget on aliens instead.
Social call.
You can see the money there, all right. A few above-the-line costs in that little lot. Not that television executives worry over much about that, because if they do overspend, they can always claw a bit back on the budget by lending their family homes for the filming. Aliens, then, come in all shapes and sizes. The characteristics conceived sometimes by the writer, but more often by the producer. Lizardy, locusty, how many eyes, special superpowers, and so on. Easy enough to scribble down in a meeting, but a lot harder to be the one inside the skin for 8 hours a day. And as science fiction shows have got bigger, they have acquired many more, comfortable dressing rooms for actors? No. They've acquired armies of assistant producers and script editors. I mean, they sprout like an alien fungus. And of course, each and every one of them has their own ideas and preferences as to what an alien should look like. Naturally, it's created design problems.
We are the Slitheen.
A classic example of an alien designed by committee. Not all aliens have lines to say by any means, but for those who do, there's the interesting challenge of what accent to use. Alien speech patterns vary almost as much as they do on Earth. And a few years ago, I helped put together a series of BBC outer space accent cassettes. Far Gone in a Week, Conversational Crass, and so on. which a lot of people have been very sweet and said they found useful. So let's hear some alien dialects now, starting with pteroleptal.
Tell me about your mode of transport.
There's also an estuary pteroleptal accent, but this is the standard RP.
And where is this TARDIS now?
That is...
Nabil Shaban relishing those Verossian cadences with discreet assistance from the sound technicians.
Yes.
Are they really disturbing, these videos you sell?
I'm sure a proper rescue operation will be mounted.
Oh, the notoriously tricky Phallos dialect.
These Earth females seem to have a distressing tendency to rash action.
How far from the target is the skeleton now?
Yes, Zygon's pretty straightforward and not too hard on the larynx once you've flattened your bottom out and tightened your box up.
You admire our technology, human.
Well, I'm not human and I've seen better.
And it's interesting to note the close linguistic connection between the Zygon from 1975 and these Martian ice warriors from 8 series earlier.
Where is the girl? Your rock has not yet returned. He must find her. Yes.
Dear old Bernie Bresslaw pumping out the sibilants like a beam engine. It's like wearing a mask in Greek tragedy, with the shape of the mask informing your performance. Hissy, squeaky, guttural with a gastric underbubble and so on. So alien acting is simply continuing a 2,500-year classical tradition from the Bacchae to Blake 7. And by the way, if Euripides were alive today, I've no doubt whatsoever that he'd be writing for Doctor Who. I mean, I'd do it like a shot then, of course. I always prefer to create my own alien voice rather than resorting to synthesized enhancements. But it really depends on the thickness of the skin and whether there's a mouth hole to shout through. But some aliens really do benefit from a little extra vocal voltage. If you're cast as a tripod power master, for example, you need all the help you can get.
Does the Cognos agree?
A big alien needs a big sound. And here the synthesizer enhances the formal elegance of the tripod language.
He has taken you deep into his confidence, boy.
As you have too, Master.
And yet, you have deceived me.
Not I, Master.
Where did you obtain this paper, boy?
From the garden, Master.
You stole it?
No,
See how quick the lie springs to your lip.
Shades of my Gonath there. Very similar to the scene in Thargon Dawn, where I confront the boy whose name I still can't remember, the good-looking one, the obligatory piece of beefcake, and I say,
You have proved an apt pupil, Christon. Now must you prove your valor.
I'm sure it'd be very right on and egalitarian if aliens all went round talking in a South London street argot and saying, "Is I bothered?" every 5 seconds, but it wouldn't be very realistic, would it? Now, as I say, with some monsters, the accent is not an issue. It's purely a physical process with perhaps a bit of grunting or hissing. And by the way, when it comes to the argument over what constitutes a speaking part, Miriam can turn into a bit of a Martian ice warrior herself. She's a very, very tough cookie indeed, which is of course, absolutely ideal for me because I'll say yes to anything. Craig, absolutely hopeless. I mean, you should see the diary. It's ridiculous. I'm doing an Atrocitus at the Cottesloe. There's another Thargon convention, of course, in March. I'm trying to do up the new flat. There's this, and the novel. Actor trying to stay ever so slightly sane here. Anyway, to return to the subject of alien noises, of which there were not a few, I must say, coming from Miriam's office when she saw the budget for this. Film clips, £80,000, Craig 2 bob and a toffee apple. Anyway, onwards and upwards. She got them up in the end, but, you know. So, alien noises can be done on the spot by the actor inside the skin, or they can be specially created by that most august of all TV institutions, the BBC Radiophonic Workshop. I think it's fair to say that the bearded geniuses of the Maida Vale studio basement have been responsible for some of the most exciting and original noises in broadcasting history, let's treat ourselves to just a few. Interestingly, the noise that this triffid makes is identical to the sound of a Martian fishing boat.
But Bert had got to like the Martians. And anyway, it seemed then that that was all the future there could be.
You know, much of our so-called knowledge of the universe is largely speculation. But in performance terms, we've covered quite a bit of ground. From space villains who shout, to heroes in roll necks, to aliens of the speaking, hissing and gurgling variety. But there is, of course, another important living species aboard a spaceship, and that's artificial intelligence. The talking computer and the humorous robot are as much a feature of the sci-fi landscape as laser guns and sliding doors. Artificial intelligence was defined by the great British mathematician Alan Turing, who I played, of course, in the musical Turing-a-Ding-Ding at the Shaftesbury in 1999. Artificial intelligence, said Turing, in the number that opened Act 2, as a matter of fact, must be capable of holding a convincingly human conversation for 15 minutes. There's quite a few people in this building, actually, who wouldn't pass the Turing test. And the marketing department of Turing-a-Ding-Ding. I don't know what planet they were on. But the talking computer is usually the most intelligent voice in a sci-fi story. It can be slightly unrewarding to play, of course, because often you're just there to tell the others what's gone wrong. But on the plus side, you bypass the whole roll neck issue, and you can virtually phone it in from Hampstead.
Standard hypnotic procedure, audio pulse signals with visual support.
All life support systems have ceased to function.
What are the surface conditions on horizon?
Negative information.
Population?
Negative information.
Further information is sent before decision can be taken.
Well, is the information on horizon classified?
Negative information.
Did you hear me?
I cannot answer.
Can't. Or won't.
I cannot answer.
Have you any information on horizon's defenses?
Negative.
There's a surprise.
You are carrying weapons. You will remove them.
We prefer to keep them with us.
You will remove them.
No.
Vox, how can somebody be in two places at the same time?
There is no record, Nathan. Bang goes another good idea.
You're being facetious.
The phrase is your own, Nathan.
Yeah, well, let's keep it that way. Erase it.
Humorous robots are a little bit more hard work than facetious computers. But then the robot tends to get more laughs, so you takes your choice. Now, all good sci-fi abides by the writer Isaac Asimov's laws of robotics, which were formulated, actually, in 1940, and which state, as you may remember from the big robot tap routine that closed the first half of Turing-a-Ding-Ding, a robot may not injure a human being, he's got to do what they want, don't you go disagreeing. I can't think why that show never ran. Still, if you don't spend any money whatsoever on marketing and publicity, what do you expect? Now, there are two additional laws of robotics that have been formulated by television. A robot must have an appealing name, and a robot must move about in an amusing fashion.
Follow them, K9.
Master?
Let me know where they settle.
Forget it, Burkett. Drop that bar before you do any more damage.
I
I'm a third-generation robot myself. We get names like Gideon. There were 20 of us Gideons manufactured at the factory for bar work. I was the last one out. I will tell you a story. I am programmed to tell stories, you know. Well, I will tell you this story. There was this Englishman, there was this Scotsman, and there was this Irishman.
You wish we a merry... No, reject. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Never underestimate the viewing public's willingness to fall in love with a robot. They're among the most popular TV characters of the last 50 years. Never turn down a bot part, because if it's got a quirky delivery, funny movements, and sufficiently memorable name, you're well on your way to getting your own spin-off series. Don't believe me? Having your own series propels you into a world of merchandising and sci-fi conventions and a lot of things that have nothing whatsoever to do with the reason one became an actor in the first place. I'm not sure what that reason was now, it's so long ago, but I'm fairly certain it had very little to do with going to a jury's inn for lunch with a bunch of giggling social misfits dressed up as me and shouting, "Resistance is futile." But, I mean, I do it because of pathological inability to say no to anything. And I charge them a flat £3,000 fee. Plus, of course, cat-sitting fees if it's an overnight, which I think is only fair, you know, if one has to be away from home. You know, seeing that last clip of film with the poor girl running about the countryside in her leg warmers, I realised just how much of this programme we've spent cooped up in the studio. It's high time we tackled some sci-fi exteriors. So let's wrap up warm and get our thermals on. Let's water the plants and charge up our phones. We're going filming. The BBC's filming season is a short one, February through April.
Well done, Sergeant. Take one to the airstrip. We'll spot him from the air.
These are arduous weeks for sci-fi actors, as the days are short and there are many pages of shooting script to be accomplished.
Get after him, Lethbridge Stewart. I'll contact you by RT.
Move over, Bentham.
Temperatures often fall below zero. The terrain is harsh and unforgiving. A high-protein diet is essential to see an actor through calorie-burning sequences like these. Inevitably, some fail to make it to the wrap party. Whenever I've gently and respectfully suggested that we film in the summer when there's more light, I'm met with piteous smiles. Filming is, of course, out of the question in July and August because that's when TV executives migrate to their holiday homes in the warm south. And, of course, they can't do anything in September because they're all in Edinburgh, drooling over the latest infant comedian. And October is entirely taken up with half-term activities. November's for flu and Christmas shopping in New York. December's office parties, and then nobody does anything at all until the end of the holidays, which is mid-January, by which time it's time to go skiing again. I do not exaggerate. And, you know, I'm sorry, But if you want to achieve anything in life, then you have to make sacrifices. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's the reality. I mean, I had to give away my Glyndebourne tickets because it clashed with the recording dates of this. But, I mean, do I get compensated? Do I buggery? Well, you know, you just have to, you know, carry on and not get too cross. Just let it wash over you, you know. And I mean, that's what I do. I just, you know, after all, one is extremely privileged to be doing this job, so there's absolutely no point in getting in a pother about it all. So, that said, let's look at a slightly more agreeable element of sci-fi performance, talking into your watch.
What? This is not Mender Sports X. Who's that? Oh, Deanie, no? Look, Deanie, I got a show just on. What's with you? No, I can't. Not now.
Stop reference query 79.
Ready. Stop. Now that's for me. Where the hell can I get one of those?
Look, Deanie, I tell you no. Oh, sick? How sick? When? Sure? Oh, look, we talk later.
So much more stylish than the mobile. And in my view, carrying an even more delicious whiff of clandestine sexuality. The trouble with sex in sci-fi is that although it plays its part, you have to bear in mind the age range of the viewers. You may remember the scene in Delta Base Omega with me and Billy Whitelaw, where she says, "Teach me more of lip-touching, Captain Dysart, for the custom is strangely pleasing to me." And then they turned on the colour wheel and played some space music while we went like this. I mean, it's all fairly mild stuff, but we got into some terrible trouble. The fact is, you simply cannot risk alienating the core audience of young, single men in their 30s employed in higher education and IT. Well, since I've conjured up the spirit of Eros, I suppose we'd better let him get his quiver out.
Hey, we must stop meeting like this.
One more kiss, dear.
There you are at last.
Oh,
my love, they said you were dead.
Only this, dear, is goodbye.
Woman, you're beautiful.
For our love is such pain and such pleasure that I'll treasure till I die. One more kiss, dear.
Beautifully imperfect.
One more sigh.
Kind teaser.
Oh, go away, Henry.
Go!
He's down!
Get out!
He's
Don't go! Now!
Is goodbye.
Leave me alone, I shall call the guards.
Is such passion,
Guards!
such pleasure.
Take this primitive to the punishment cells.
Until tomorrow.
She's dead.
There's nothing more reassuring than the body of a woman.
If you want to show sex in a positive light, then for heaven's sake, go and do it on another kind of show. The best science fiction doesn't rely on sex or talking into your watch to create excitement or wearing a roll neck. But instead, it stalks the darker recesses of our unconscious minds, unchaining the gothic bestiary of our troubled dreams. Classic science fiction combines all the lavish spectacle and facial hair of costume drama with the raw excitement of Blake 7.
Power, Kemp. The incredible power of invisibility. Terror. Terror. Yes, yes, yes. A reign of terror. Against whom? Weaklings. Enemies. The world.
The simplest ideas can drive a sci-fi plot. Invisibility, time machine, elixir of youth. The trouble is that most of the good ideas were snapped up 100 years ago. So writers have had to be ever more inventive in contriving a plot device. Playwrights know it as the mainspring. Hitchcock called it the MacGuffin. It doesn't have a specific name in sci-fi, but it's very often held in tweezers.
And here it is.
Sometimes the mainspring doesn't immediately appear to be terribly promising, but in the hands of a skilled practitioner, it can be turned into an acting time bomb.
It then draws power from the unit, is pulsed down the linking fiber to seek out the main computer, which it kills. And finally, it self-destructs with the message, the invisible worm that flies in the night.
That's incredible.
Small objects are as significant as the actor chooses to make them.
What is it?
Well, it's a sort of powder, but it's heavy. And I'd say colloidal.
What went on here? What did it do to them?
Jennifer here, working without tweezers, but doing some lovely stuff with a fountain pen, and showing that you don't have to go at it like a bull at a gate.
Don't move. Stay exactly where you are. And whatever you do, don't touch anything.
What's that? I don't know yet. He's hanging on to it like grim death.
A country accent can nicely tee up a tiny important thing.
Well, it looks like a bit of bone.
Yes, it's a phalanx.
Never allow the audience to suspect that you've got no confidence in the mainspring.
Clarence, keep still.
Or that you're freezing your tits off in your catsuit.
Don't provoke it. You, woman, give it the chiropractor.
Once again, it's back to basics here as we remember our Stanislavski. Where's the big monster come from, and what does he want? If you feel your conviction ebbing, just stand firm, teeth and buttocks clenched, and let the special effects fellows do their job. So I think writers owe a tremendous debt to actors for realising their ideas and creating an atmosphere in which fantastical things can happen. Plague powder or a killer fountain pen. A big red spider that wants a carrot. The writer can himself be tremendously useful, also, in the early stages of production, although emphatically not during filming, when he's wandering around with his carrier bag, giving everyone notes and generally getting in everyone's way, with bits of food stuck in his beard. And also tiresome demands to be paid for every single syllable that he types. I mean, believe it or not, I offered one of them the chance to write my Gonarth speech, for the convention, this was, and he asked me what address he should send the invoice to, which is silly. I mean, if he'd done a good job, he could have been scripting the next Thargon movie. I gave him a signed photo, because you do have to keep them on side, but... So, mercenary, clumsy, and physically unprepossessing as they are, writers do occasionally justify their existence by coming up with original ideas that nobody else could possibly have thought of. A terrifying attack of killer green stuff, for example.
Behind you! Shut the door! Shut the door!
Careful!
What are they?
Unfriendly, which is fortunate, really. They'd be difficult to love. Come on.
And here, the writer of Doomwatch created an even more disturbing scenario of a world attacked by a terrifying form of intelligent super rat.
They've propped open the gates with spoons and forks.
And taken the bait. Good Lord.
Which means that we have got a reasoning carnivorous animal. Rattus sapiens.
Colin! Oh!
A young Robert Powell there, doing himself all kinds of good. So, monsters, viruses, green slime, space attacks. There are as many alien threats as there are ways of overcoming them. And as we've seen, by no means all are calculated to enhance an actor's dignity. The poor bunting who had to wrestle the Invisible Man, Robert with the rats sewn onto his trousers. And haven't the doctors had their share of unbecoming tussles? All of which adds to one's profound sense of relief that one's never had to toddle around the TARDIS oneself and get down dirty with the Daleks. And before we dematerialise and go our separate ways, I wonder if I shouldn't perhaps put the record straight about the Doctor and I. When they brought him back after 16 years, Miriam did get a call, indeed, saying they wanted to see me. I was a bit... Oh, yeah, you know. But she twisted my arm. They had a new approach. They thought I was the most compelling actor of my generation. You know. So, anyway, I went along. Get there, regulation 45 minutes wait in BBC reception before a 12-year-old producer with a smiley monkey on his T-shirt comes down, says, "Oh, it's such an honour to meet you, Mr. Craig. The part of the Evil Father Christmas was written specially for you." So, I mean, guest character, no problem with that. A bit of crossed wires, but I'm fine about that. One question, though. If the part's been written specially for me, then why is Timmy Pigott-Smith sitting the other side of reception holding a copy of the same bloody script in his hand? A script which, after a further 20 minutes, I suggested they might care to shove where Gallifrey's suns don't shine. And I haven't done a camera test from that day to this. I mean, you know, I've done 4 Thargon movies. There was a survey. I was voted the most popular alien. I was voted the 15th most popular alien in history. I mean, if producers don't know my work by now, then that's their problem. Go and get Thargon Quest out of the library. Look at the DVD of Delta Base Omega. Watch Quatermass and the Kinky Boots. I mean, do your job for 5 minutes. But, you know, I just, as I say, I just let it all wash over. I mean, that's what you have to do. Well, at last we come to the point which, in all my masterclasses, I usually dread like a plague of super rats. But not in this case. Because in science fiction, the whole fight-to-the-death process is ameliorated by the convention of the ray gun or laser zapper duel. But there's still plenty of work to be done before evil is defeated.
Who are you telling to shut up?
I'm telling you, sport. Now move on, okay?
Just what we needed to break the tension. Come on, Heavy. That's the boy. Come on, Heavy.
I'm the Doctor.
Doctor!
And if civilization isn't safe after that, it never will be. Well, it's been a sheer delight to conduct this workshop and to see so many old mates working their drawers off, especially the doctors, who really are the sturdy pack animals of British sci-fi. Not for me, as I say. And of course, not doing the doctor has meant I've been able to concentrate on the kind of work I should be doing. Like this, my atrocitus at the Cottesloe, my Gonath, although that looks as if it might have gone away after the business with the duvet cover. But to be honest, I would have had to have walked, even if they had retained my character as a speaking role. The thing is, I actually feel like I've got my life back. And there's no reason why I can't keep doing the Thargon conventions. So, all sorts of exciting things for the future. The future both for oneself and, more importantly, the future of the human race. We stand, Janus-like, on the threshold of time past and time to be. For who is to say there are no other worlds out there, or if truly we spin alone in the continuum, insignificant as a speck of cosmic dust.
Bruce, you surely know the dangers that we face. Everyone on board has got an equal place in my eyes. There are no exceptions, no favorites, no pull. No one gets an easy ride, is swathed in cotton wool on this craft. On this craft.
Listen, Mr. Hone, if we're to be friends, you better know where my cooperation